Brilliant. Okay, so it seems to have slowed down now. So hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Financial Crime Compliance in an Evolving Digital Landscape. I'm Phoebe and I'm the course advisor for Financial Crime and Compliance. It's fantastic to see so many of you join us live today. For those who couldn't make it, rest assured that we will be recording this event and we'll share the link with you in coming days. There will be an opportunity for questions at the end of the webinar. However, please feel free to use the chat and question function throughout the session, and we'll make sure to address your questions during the Q&A segment at the end. So I'll just move on to the agenda of today. So we've got the Academia Supporting Industry, Pathways to Study, the Masters, Industry Insight session, and then we've got a course content and structure. We will, like I said, have time for the Q&As at the end, but please use it throughout because I know what it's like when a question pops into your head and you can't remember it at the end. So now I'll hand it over to Dr. Katie Benson and Jonathan Bowdler, who you are here to listen to today so they can introduce themselves in more detail.
Wonderful, thank you, Phoebe. Sorry, I've just got a tickle in my throat that's just come at the wrong time, but hopefully I've got a drink now, so I'll be okay. So hi everyone, good morning or good afternoon to you all wherever you are. I see we've got people coming in from the chat, people from all over the place, British Virgin Islands and Oman, and I'm sure everyone in between. So thank you to you all for coming along. I'm Katie Benson and I am I'm currently the Programme Director for the MSc. I work with primarily with a colleague, Professor Nick Lord, in running this programme. Unfortunately, Nick can't be here today, but he asked me to pass on his regards to you and his thanks for coming along to this session. So just to give you a bit of background on myself, don't want to give you my whole life story, but just quickly a bit of background on myself. I've had quite a varied career, combining both academia and practice. So I'm currently a lecturer in criminology in the School of Social Sciences here at Manchester. And my main teaching focus is this master's, but I've taught undergraduate and postgraduate students for a number of years, both here and at Lancaster University, where I was previously, mainly on financial crime, organised crime, white-collar crime, and research methods, those kind of areas, and supervised PhD students in these areas as well. So my research focus is on these areas as well. My main research area is money laundering and anti-money laundering. I'm particularly interested in the role of professional enablers, the lawyers and accountants who can play a role in enabling money laundering and how they're regulated. And more broadly, I do a variety of research on organisational non-compliance, compliance and regulation. So prior to coming into academia, I worked in various roles in UK law enforcement, primarily in kind of intelligence, analysis and research roles. I worked at a regional intelligence unit and at a national organised crime policing unit, policing agency as well. I'm also currently Associate Fellow at the RUSI Centre for Finance and Security that you might have heard of. So that's allowed me to get involved with some of the policy focus work that they do down there. So that kind of interface, that kind of interaction between academia and practice and policy has been a theme throughout my career, which is part of why I enjoy running this MSc so much, as that interface is such an important part of what we're trying to do with it. So yeah, that's just a bit of background on me. I'll now hand over to Jonathan, who some of you may know already from past experience with the ICA. But yeah, next slide, please, Phoebe, and we'll let Jonathan introduce himself.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Sorry, good afternoon. Although, of course, it does depend on where you are. And apologies to Katie and Phoebe for being slightly late there. The invite got lost in my junk mail somehow. But here I am, and I would just first of all like to say, thanks so much to Katie and the team at Manchester for asking me to be involved in this briefing seminar as well. I have been involved with the MSc since its inception, really helping with determining the syllabus in terms of stepping on from the qualifications we offer at the ICA. And being the global head of the postgraduate qualifications, it's been probably the most challenging, but also the most satisfying part of my career over the last 10 years to see the number of students coming through and the increasing quality of the students coming through the course, many with a huge amount of experience in financial crime prevention and other governance, risk and compliance areas, but now having the opportunity to reinforce that with the academic rigor that Manchester offers. Those of you who have done the ICA qualifications, which I'm guessing is quite a few of you, will know that we focus very much on the practical application. We back up as much as we can that professional element of the diplomas with practical examples, practical implications of the environment in which we work and live. So being able to use the knowledge and the skills that we learn and translate them into behaviors and actions that actually bring about the benefits that our knowledge and our skills should bring to both ourselves in our own careers, our teams within our organizations, and of course, probably most importantly, the organization as a whole is what the ICA qualifications are about. And now with the added ability to go on and convert or top up the diploma into a master's degree just really completes the cycle, basically completes the picture. And all of the feedback I've had from all of the students that have gone through has been so positive that it's really it makes me feel really good about what we've done with the students at the ICA, and also to know that they're getting such a great experience by going on and completing the masters at Manchester. So I'm here to sort of promote the benefits. I always talk about the benefits of governance, risk and compliance and managing financial crime risks. And so I'm also here to sort of promote the benefits of the continuing education that's available, and encourage you all, hopefully answer some of your questions, put some of the practical aspects of the training into perspective, why it's so important that we are able to turn our knowledge into practical actions and actually bring about those benefits for our organizations. And it's sort of in recent months, I've actually finally got to the point where I now only focus pretty much on this qualification at the ICA. I've reached a point in my career now where I'm very fortunate and I can focus. I've reduced my hours slightly this year, which is nice. And of all the things that I've worked on, this is the one thing I really want to keep working on for the next sort of 5 years or so of my career as I head towards my own sort of semi-retirement, although lecturing with both the ICA and hopefully with Manchester is still one of the little strings to my bow that I want to keep in place. So that's where I've reached in my career, and I hope that this qualification is that stepping stone or that driver for the next stage in your qualification.
Thanks, Jonathan. And yeah, definitely keen to have you involved for years to come. I don't think we're going to let you fully retire just yet. I don't think you'd want to anyway, would you? Just completely. Brilliant, thanks. So this, as Jonathan mentioned, we have this kind of unique relationship that we've developed. There's been developing for kind of a while now, and that Jonathan's been involved in with Nick, my colleague who I mentioned as well, who can't be here today, for a number of years now. So we just to tell you a little bit about this kind of the unique nature of this top-up MSc, and which is based on this innovative partnership between the Department of Criminology here at Manchester and the ICA, and so brings together, as Jonathan said, that the academic expertise, experience and support from the department and the wider university with the expertise of the ICA. Phoebe, perhaps next slide, I think, I can't remember. Yeah, so as I said, it's this unique relationship. The university's had a relationship with the ICA for a number of years now, but this is the first time that the Department of Criminology has worked with the ICA to develop and run a programme. And it's a real kind of natural fit, as Jonathan mentioned. There are very few, if any, I think, really criminology departments in the country that have the research and teaching expertise in financial crime, fraud, organisational misconduct and non-compliance and compliance and regulation, and expertise in digital technologies, digital crime, and cybersecurity that we have here at Manchester. Manchester is really starting to cement its position as a centre of excellence in digital security, as well as in financial crime and compliance. Just a couple of months ago, the university was named an academic centre of excellence in recognition of its internationally leading cybersecurity research. So that's been a big kind of thing, big kind of recognition for Manchester recently. And Nick, who I've mentioned, who I work with on the programme, is director of the university's Centre for Digital Trust and Security, which again is a nationally recognised research centre. It's cross-disciplinary, so it runs across the university, but is led from the Department of Criminology. And then we work with all the really clever people in data science and things like that, who understand the AI and the machine learning aspects, and we kind of bring that together in the centre that Nick runs. So we have that kind of combination of the financial crime and compliance expertise and the digital security expertise. I always in these presentations have to mention the rankings. That's a kind of part of my job description. So just to say that the department was ranked #1 in the UK for criminology in the Guardian's ranking tables in 2022. We need to update that probably, actually, update that to a more recent ranking, and that reflects the kind of the quality of the research and teaching that's done in the department across a number of areas. So what we bring to the table in this master's is the latest research on financial crime, compliance and digital security, theoretical perspectives that will allow you to think differently about the risks that your organisation faces and the compliance work that you do, and also the research methods expertise that will train you to use rigorous social science methods to carry out a dissertation on an area of particular interest to you, which I'll talk more about later. And then the ICA, as Jonathan mentioned, and you might want to say a bit more about, Jonathan, the ICA, for anybody who doesn't know anything about the ICA, the leading professional body in this area, and maybe you can just say a bit more about what the ICA bring to the table, Jonathan.
Of course. Our role has always been to be a provider of education rather than training. So for the way in which we introduce our qualifications across the 4 different levels, of course, you need knowledge and you need to understand the basics of financial crime prevention or regulatory compliance. But for those of you in the position that you're in now in your career, what we've tried to develop is more about the skills and behaviours required of senior managers and leaders in these areas. So it's focusing on what it actually means to be a professional and how we can apply our knowledge, apply the skills, develop the right behaviours to be effective in our roles. And again, I'll say it again, to bring the benefits of our skills to our organisations. Now, obviously, that requires, as you develop through your career, a much, much better understanding of the knowledge. And the knowledge changes from perhaps this is what we have to do, as set out in the legislation, to what is the best way of achieving this? How do we achieve the desired outcomes? How do we identify the influencers, those people we need on side, and demonstrate to them this is the right strategic approach, this is the right way to achieve those outcomes? And so therefore the knowledge required develops and changes, and the using and the application of that knowledge becomes a much greater focus of the ICA qualifications as you progress through your careers to the leadership level. But because, of course, we might focus on that professional side of things, if it's not backed up with the academic rigor, the ability to research, the ability to find out, you know, what is it you need to know? It's all well and good knowing what you know, but how do you know what you don't know? I think that made sense. And how you ensure that you do get the sort of the very latest access to the very latest thoughts, the very latest developments, which often influence, of course, governments and the regulators. Then by putting yourself on equal footing, we can then, to a degree, preempt what's coming, prepare for what's coming. And even if we don't know the detail, that being forward-looking, identifying opportunities and risks before they arise is a real way of adding benefit to our organisations. So the way in which I obviously see the ICA qualifications is that progression throughout a career. Depending at the point at which you wish to get to, But with our postgraduate qualification, which leads into this master's degree, and then this master's degree itself is about leadership. It's about strategic implementation of the strategy around financial crime prevention, the governance and risk management required to achieve that, but also then also considering very, very clearly the practical focus. So what are the skills required? And those of you who've done the postgraduate know that we focus quite a lot on what traditionally perhaps been called soft skills, but which really are more about psychological behavior of both senior individuals, of organizational behaviors, how people behave in the workplace differently to how they behave as individuals. So understanding the environment and how to use that. So as I say, I actually do, as Katie's alluded to, teach one of the weekend sessions on the MSc, and it's a lovely way to be able to sort of cross over and ensure that I'm seeing how the ICA students are continuing to progress. And equally, I can then take away what I'm learning as I teach on the Manchester course back to the development on the postgraduate courses that some of you have probably already taken with the ICA.
Yeah, thanks. So we do have that nice kind of symbiotic relationship between the two, and that's because this MSc has been designed as a top-up MSc for people who have one of the ICA postgraduate diplomas. So a master's degree, to get a master's degree, requires 180 credits at level 7, I think it is. Yeah, so 180 credits. So you get 60 credits from the ICA postgraduate diploma and 120 credits then from the masters. So that's how it's been kind of designed in that way. Phoebe, next slide, or the next, maybe go on to the next one actually. So yeah. I don't know if you want to take this opportunity, Jonathan, to give any more detail about the 2 postgraduate diplomas that feed into this programme, feed into the masters, and for any of the people in the webinar who haven't taken a postgraduate diploma yet.
Yes, certainly. I just had a quick look there while Kate was speaking at the attendees. Certainly recognise a few names. So hello to those of you who I have taught before or met on the professional postgraduate qualifications. For those of you who haven't taken one of the qualifications, there are 2 streams. There is a professional postgraduate diploma in financial crime compliance, which, as the name suggests, does focus on financial crime prevention and the regulatory world and environment around that. And the second stream is perhaps a slightly more holistic variation of the qualification, which focuses on governance, risk and compliance, which, while still covering some of the same topics and some of the syllabus overlaps between the 2 streams, is a little bit more around the governance and risk management frameworks to enable us to manage the financial crime risks. So if you are pursuing a sort of a more generalist sort of executive stroke director role that incorporates all of risk and compliance or other areas of risk, then perhaps the diploma in GRC would be the right approach, which still does cover one of its key areas of the syllabus is financial crime prevention. But if your career is going down the route of a senior financial crime prevention specialist, and it could be in one or more areas, you know, such as anti-money laundering or sanctions or bribery and corruption, all those lovely other crimes that we have to deal with, then you can be a little more focused with the financial crime compliance diploma. The differences are fully explained on the website, where we have a high-level syllabus, and that high-level syllabus is high-level because we deliberately don't have a detailed syllabus because we adapt it to the environment with each and every intake. So we run 5 intakes a year, two on financial crime prevention and 3 on governance, risk and compliance. And every time that we update the course, we update the course every time we run a cohort. And we've just switched across, actually, that instead of producing materials ourselves, which then get out of date quite quickly, by the time you've written materials, published them and produced them and circulated them, signed them off, all of the things that need doing, you actually then in the workshops and in the discussions, you're talking about what's happening now, what happened last week, what the current Senate committee hearings about in the Boeing case, or what's happening in the current election campaigns around the different approaches to regulation that different parties have. So what we've switched to is a curated reading list, where we are now actually using live some sort of more traditional academic pieces of work that have been written and are the fundamental and the basics of the academic research in these areas over the last couple of decades, but also including current issues and including some more sort of, shall we say, I don't know, Katie, maybe you can fill in a little bit from Manchester's side, but we're also now starting to say, actually, some of the research around things like good quality documentaries, quality podcasts. Now, you've got to be careful because there's so much out there that the 90% of stuff that's not really useful, but there are other ways now of finding information. And one of the joys of running those postgraduate courses is the networking and the sharing of knowledge and information. And every time we have a workshop or we get together for a particular masterclass, you can see the participants saying, oh, have you read this? Have you seen this? And a lot of the knowledge is actually brought together by the students and delegates themselves. So those courses themselves run between 9 and 11 months, depending on when you join them. They are at level 7, so the same academic level as the master's degree, and they are standalone as professional postgraduate diplomas if you wish to pause at that point. But since we introduced the master's degree, is this 3 years ago now, Katie?
Yeah.
I think we are getting there, or this is the third intake anyway. Everybody, as I said, I mentioned briefly earlier, has mentioned that going on and then completing the MSc with Katie and her team has, really just continued to build and enhance the learning. And there is overlap, there is back and forth synergy, and it does also give you that academic rigor, and that master's qualification that many employers will be looking for. Many regulators now also, senior management, they want that evidence that the experience that many senior management have is backed up with some academic rigor. And training is all well and good, but I always try and make clear to anybody we work with, and also all of our students, particularly at this level, that there's a very significant difference between training and education. And education is what we try and do. And that's, if you like, the more difficult. Why is this happening? What does it mean to our organization? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to society? We're seeing a lot more development in the ESG arena. So we're seeing in the last couple of years, we've increased our coverage of the environmental impacts, the social impacts, vulnerable customers, the technological issues, wonderful technology arising with lots of opportunities, but the risks that potentially also brings that need managing, then all of that gets sort of mixed up in the pot. And one of the, I think, and I hope it applies as well with you, Katie, and please correct me if I say anything that's not right, is that you can also take ownership of what you're learning. So whilst we will provide you with a syllabus and we will provide you with topics and a framework for your studies, we encourage you to do your own research, and we encourage you particularly to identify how you will use that knowledge in your organization, in your jurisdiction, your industry. So it has that professional output as well. And we hope that everybody doing the course, when we assess it at the end, some of the evidence that is given in terms of the skills and the capabilities that you have, the competencies you're developing, are actually being developed during the course. And your evidence of those competencies are things you have done during that 9 months that you've been on the course. So it has that hopefully very practical aspect as well. So that's the 2 postgraduate diplomas. If you haven't already done them, I know many of you have. And for those of you that have, we now have about half a dozen people who've done both. So you may want to consider that.
Wow, that is keen. And I guess, like you say, getting those 2 different aspects of it, the broader and the more focused. Yeah, I agree. One of the things we try and do definitely with the masters, the MSc part of it as well, is through the assessments and the tasks and things like that is about applying the learning to your own practical experience in your own particular context, your organization or your sector or your particular focus. I agree very much about the fast moving nature of this area, Jonathan, which is one of the reasons it's so interesting and such a good area to work in. But yeah, definitely we're learning from the students as much as they're learning, I think, from us throughout all the programs, which is great, and it just keeps moving. And one aspect of that particularly is this issue of the digital landscape, and that is a really important area, a really important element of the MSc is the digital societies bit. And when I take you through the structure of the MSc in a little while, you'll see that, and that's because there's no getting away from the fact that for risk compliance and governance professionals are now operating in an increasingly significant and fast-moving digital landscape. So we thought we'd just have a bit of a discussion about that, about the evolving digital landscape for compliance professionals. Primarily because I wanted to take advantage of having Jonathan here to pick his brains, see what he thinks about the impact of digital technologies on the compliance world and those kind of new developments. So I think next slide, Phoebe, and then the next one, I think. So I just wanted to put a question to you, the audience, first, and can probably just do this in the chat. So just on a scale of 1 to 10, we put that in. On a scale of 1 to 10, how ready do you think the compliance community is for the kind of the current digital landscape and the impact of new and emerging technologies? So I'd just be interested in your thoughts. Just type a number into the chat between 1 and 10. 1, not ready at all. 10, completely ready and everything's under control.
There's always one that 1 to 10 isn't enough variability. So Jane's gone 3 to 4.
Hard to decide. 3 in relation to some aspects, 4 in relation to others, perhaps. Yeah, might be true. Okay, so we're hitting somewhere in the middle, but tending to be below 5 even. So I think that probably, yeah, somewhere apart from Anurag, who looks like he's got it much more under control, and on top of things tend to be hitting around 4 or 5. So yeah, that's probably reflective that, you know, increasing understanding, but just the changing nature of these digital technologies, just a lot, I think, for the compliance world to deal with. So Jonathan, I ask you then to start with, what do you think are the key kind of emerging risks for financial crime compliance in relation to digital technologies?
Well, I'll talk about a couple of examples in a moment, but there's one other thing I'll just mention on that response on that little survey, if I may. Would the scores change if we said your industry or your firm as opposed to the compliance community? I suspect they would, because when we look at the emerging risks, it depends who you ask. The emerging risks to an AML reporting officer or a head of compliance or a head of risk management may well be different to what the board would say, and may well be different to what the director of IT might say. And yet, you know, if you're looking at it from the organization's perspective, you need coherence. You need to agree what your risks are so that you're able to then allocate your resource and determine upon, you know, which ones you are going to manage, why you're going to manage them, and the benefits you'll get. So I think one of the key risks around it isn't actually technological risk itself, it's the interpretation of what is important to your organization. And being able, as let's say a compliance professional, if we're looking at it from the compliance community, to be pragmatic and understand that our firms don't exist to be compliant, they exist to meet their strategic objectives. And that means that the decision making around compliance risk or financial crime risk management, you need a seat at the top table. You need to have access to the board, if not beyond the board, so that you can direct the senior management team, you know, to the right risks to make sure that They may well be looking at technology in terms of, let's take AI, because it is very topical. They may well be looking at AI and being delivered presentations on AI for the benefits it brings to the organization, the efficiencies, the improved targeting of customers, the improved development of products and services. And you need to make sure that, as important at the time, the risks associated with AI, which are financial crime risks as well as financial crime compliance risks. There is a difference between financial crime risk and compliance risk, are considered, so that decisions made at the strategic level are well informed. And of course, well-informed strategic decision making is what corporate governance is all about. So therefore, that's one of the first things is, are we making sure that we're identifying the full range of opportunities and risk that emerge from technological development? Once we get to that, we can then start saying, so what are the technological developments? What is moving quickest, perhaps, or what's going to have the biggest impact? And we can go back to sort of the basics of risk management and think about impact and probability. It's probably potential impact that drives what we do. So if we look at, let's say, quantum computing as another area, at the moment, because of the horizon for the significant changes that quantum computing will bring, I would probably put about a 10-year horizon on it being really significant. It's therefore not on the priority list. It's not sort of, this is something that we need to manage this year. But perhaps we need to make sure that someone in the business, whether it be in IT, whether it be in risk, is monitoring the developments in quantum computing to see, is that horizon changing? So is the timescale changing for things that are outside our operational or maybe even our tactical strategic planning? Most firms plan 1 year, 3 year, maybe 5. And therefore anything outside that, you've got to be quite careful about, because you can't ignore it. And yet it becomes very difficult to get it on the agenda. And I've always said that's why climate change, to me, my view, if someone says, why is it so hard to manage climate change? It's the timescale. It's as simple as that. It doesn't appear on 1 year risk outlooks. It's just not there because we don't think we'll see anything in the next year. And even if it's 5 to 10 years, we know it's going to have an impact, and we begin to see impacts perhaps today. People still think it's still so far ahead. Are we able to actually properly bring it onto the agenda? But things that are happening, such as artificial intelligence, and of course the continued massive rapid growth and normalization of crypto assets. I think that's also, that's happening right now. It's quite scary, but Bitcoin and the blockchain is 15.5 years old now. And whilst it was really sort of speculators and then, of course, criminals are always early adopters of new technology, sort of dominated the market in the first decade or so. It has become more mainstream. It's still becoming more mainstream. And it's also now got a bit of a history. So there's also public perception, regulatory perception, that has to be built into, is this acceptable? Is this the norm? And we've also, of course, got a whole generation now who are growing up knowing that crypto assets are part of what they do. It's part of the current world. So if as an organization you were too reticent to embrace crypto assets, you would be losing out on a whole new market. And that is something that, again, the conversation at senior level between financial crime prevention and compliance specialists needs to be had at board level, because if the board want to get involved in a market because it has potential, the benefits, and compliance is not there at the same time to say, absolutely, but here are the risks we need to manage, then you are going to be trying to sort of plug gaps later on. You're going to be backfilling on those risks and trying to manage risks that are more likely to materialize, rather than preempting and managing those risks in the pre-risk materialization stage and actually stopping them materializing. So the earlier you get on board, of course, in risk management, the more likely it is that you're managing the potential as opposed to the materialization. in other areas of technology, I think that what we're also seeing is that the differentiation between jurisdictions is really beginning to show. So we're seeing, and it's almost an ESG issue around access to technology. So it's a bigger, rather again than looking at specific areas of technology, it's that access to, people might say, well, isn't it fantastic that we have AI to drive better decision making and better analytics and provide these products, and everybody can access them now via the World Wide Web in certain ways that with better computers, even eventually quantum computers. But who does that exclude? Who has that access? And even if the number of people who have that access is sufficient to make a business case, we perhaps get into the ethical considerations of, but is it fair that only certain members of the population, whether it be within a single jurisdiction or globally, have access to those products and services? And we start to get into the bigger ESG agenda around the fairness of the global economy and the fairness of the technology that is available. And that's before you get into the specifics of each and every thing I've mentioned so far is, so how will criminals exploit this? And so there's the constant and permanent risk that is, I would say it's emerging because it applies to all new technologies. And that is, what are the smart criminals going to do with this? So any development that is made, we need to consider, so how do we identify the financial crime risks? How do we say, that's a great idea, and if everybody uses it the way it's meant to be used, it's beneficial to all, and yet we know that there's probably 1% of the population who will definitely be trying as hard as they possibly can to find a way to use it to either commit the crimes they've always committed more efficiently, or actually maybe completely generate new types of financial crime. We've seen it, for example, with the crypto world. It just gives you so many creative opportunities for money laundering. It's almost a case of who comes up with the idea first, and then who can copy it before we have to react and respond and say, well, actually, how do we therefore prevent that? So we're always playing catch up, and there's nothing wrong with playing catch up when issues are identified. But of course, it's better if we can identify them first and prevent them. But that means we almost have to be sort of pre-criminals. We have to be even quicker to react than the criminals and think about the criminal aspects before the criminals actually start trying to utilize the technologies.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I did make some notes, but of course, having struggled to sign in, I haven't got them in front of me. I mean, you mentioned emerging technology, and I'm probably getting ahead of what you're going to ask me now, but the environment is changing as well. The environment in which these technological changes are coming along. And that's where there's two aspects there. The geopolitical issues, including the elections in the US and the UK this year, they are going to, first of all, take the focus away from other areas onto the political and geopolitical implications during the change periods. And then post the change periods, we are then going to say, and now what is the different approach that is going to be taken, if at all, by the change in the decision makers at the governmental level? Is it actually going to work its way through regulators and into the industry directly or gradually through gentle influence over time, or are they going to be very strong changes? And without getting too political, if Trump won the American election and decided he was going to be vindictive and attack some of those people who have criticized and stood against him, they might be very sudden changes and very specific changes to the regulatory environment, almost made overnight, which is something we're not used to. So that environment itself, first of all, distracting potentially, certainly distracting the media from other areas. If I were a criminal, I would obviously be planning my current latest heist to take place on July the 4th in the UK. There's all sorts of things. It's amazing how over the last 20 years I've started thinking like a criminal. and it's those kind of things that perhaps at that strategic level we can maybe delegate the responsibility into the business, and ideally maybe we should, for people to say, so how are you going to stop this? How are you going to identify these issues and how can you prevent them? But our job is to say, look, you know, this is a strategic issue here. We need to know what these risks are. We need to be creative and we need to identify them. If we can, you know, identify all of them, we can always choose which ones we don't have the resource to address, but it's better to have that choice than to miss something. And I think courses like this, they sort of get the creative juices going. They allow you to step back from the day job and say, hang on a minute, why have we not thought about this? And that's where a lot of the learning from each other also comes from. When you realize that, you know, I worked, I think, for 4 financial services firm and 1 other firm in a GRC role. Each and every firm, even in the same industry, in the same jurisdiction, identified and managed risks in different ways. And so some better, some worse. You learn from each other. One of those being GE, who designed the jet engines for Boeings. And then, of course, that's given me the insight and the interest into the Boeing case study at the moment. And you can learn and cross-learn from all of these aspects as to, so what are the emerging risks in our areas? And of course, even the Boeing issue was a technical issue, a digital issue. It was a software issue that caused those aircraft to crash. But it only actually happened because of the culture within Boeing. And so whilst we can talk about a digital world and a technological developments, the risks and the opportunities and how they emerge or materialize is still down to human beings as well. So that's where we have to step in and make sure that we represent that human factor and say, you know, we assume rationality, and that is a big mistake to make, because the main errors occur when people aren't rational. So I'm starting to ramble. I'm starting to sound as I'm taking a class.
That's it's all really interesting. A few kind of really interesting things struck me. Firstly, that final point about, as much as we kind of focus on digital technology and the change in digital landscape, there's always a human element. There's always the human aspect of it, the cultural aspect of it in organizations that kind of facilitate non-compliance, but also in terms of using digital technologies to prevent financial crime. Ultimately, it always still comes down to the people involved in kind of managing that and managing risk. The elections thing, I think, is really interesting, and we could probably talk about that all day and potential implications of that. One of the things that we cover in the digital unit of the course is misinformation and disinformation, and that's a really interesting aspect that comes out more in the lead up to elections, and is likely to play a really important role in the lead up to elections, and perhaps slightly not exactly within the tight kind of financial crime compliance remit, but I think links to the work that people in compliance roles do. And the other thing that struck me about one of the things you said early on was the importance of thinking of this as a whole kind of organization, and the different levels and different departments that need to be involved. And something else that we cover on the MSc is cybersecurity, and we have a few sections on cybersecurity, and people often think this is kind of separate to the compliance role. This is a role for the IT teams, it's their kind of focus. And what we do in the Masters is kind of show how these overlap, and the importance of compliance, risk and governance professionals having an understanding of cybersecurity issues to be able to have those kind of conversations with the IT departments and work with the cybersecurity teams and things like that, so that it's not kind of done in silos. So yeah, thanks for that, Jonathan. Really interesting, and lots of things to think about. And like I said, I think we could probably talk about these issues all day, but I guess if you want to talk about it more, come and do the Masters. we do talk about it a lot. I'll do the diplomas beforehand if you haven't already. So just to make sure I leave enough time for people to ask any questions at the end if they want to, and I'm sure you're all in the middle of busy days and need to get back to your work at the half-hour mark when we said we'd finish. So Phoebe, if you could move forward a slide. And so I'm just going to give you a bit more detail about the content and structure of the MSc, just to give you that bit more information. As we've said, this course is for experienced professionals working in various roles in compliance, governance and risk kind of related roles, who have completed a postgraduate diploma with the ICA. So this kind of having done the two will put you in a really exclusive group of professionals in your sector who have this qualification. Exclusive but growing group of professionals in your sectors. So as I said, the ICA diploma gives you the 60 credits towards the 180 that you need for a master's degree, and then the top up MSc gives you those further 120 credits over 12 months, giving you a master's degree and MSc in combination with your PG Dip from the ICA. So the course is basically designed to provide you with knowledge and understanding of various financial crime and compliance risks, or to enhance your understanding of the kinds of risks you'll be familiar with already through your role, to introduce you to academic research on financial crime and compliance, and to concepts and theories from academic research that you can apply to your own experience, to give you different ways of thinking about the challenges that you face in your organisation and in your role. To give you the opportunity to learn from your peers and from experts in the field, as well as the learning materials that we provide. So you'll engage in discussion tasks with your peers, and you'll come together 3 times during the year in the weekend masterclasses, which I'll talk about in a bit. The programme also aims to enhance your understanding of the issues that we've been talking about today. So there's risks and opportunities for compliance and regulation created by the evolving digital landscape. And also the programme will give you the skills and opportunity to carry out an original research project on a subject of your choice, which is often the most, I think, fulfilling and potentially most stressful, but the most fulfilling and enjoyable part of the MSc. So you'll see from the slide that's up now, there are 4 units on the course to make up that 120 credits. So units 1, 2 and 3 are 20 credit modules, which each take place over a 10-week period. And then the unit 4 is the dissertation project, which is 60 credits. So in Unit 1, Compliance and Financial Crime Risk, we look at some of the key concepts around financial crime and compliance and explain the benefits of using social science theory to help us understand financial crime risks in more depth and understand the broader context of compliance work. So we introduce you to some key criminological theories on financial crime and non-compliance, and some methods for analysing different forms of non-compliance. So the assessment for this unit allows you to take these concepts, theories and modes of analysis and apply them to a particular case of your choice. And so allows you to see how these more kind of abstract ideas can help you understand issues of relevance to your own role, your own workplace. Unit 2 is the one where we focus on digital technologies, financial crime and compliance. So in this unit, we begin by looking at the hyper-connected, data-intensive context that you operate in and what that means for your organisation and your role. So we look at the various potential cyber threats to your business and how you can keep your digital systems secure. We look at cryptocurrencies that Jonathan mentioned earlier are becoming an increasing kind of issue. And we look at RegTech and SubTech and how they could be used by regulators to improve their regulatory roles. And again, throughout all this, the tasks and the discussion boards that you'll engage in are designed to make you think about how all these things apply directly to your work. Unit 3 begins to get you ready for carrying out your dissertation. So in Unit 3, we look at some of the different methods of carrying out compliance research and some of the challenges with doing this kind of research in particular. So we take you through the process of identifying research questions, selecting appropriate research methods, and designing your own financial crime research. And also in this unit, we talk about some of the compliance data, corruption statistics, and that kind of secondary data that's already out there and how you can interpret those. So there's some overlap between Unit 3 and Unit 4, as in Unit 3, we kind of provide those fundamentals or those foundations of doing research for you to take then to then take forward into your dissertation project. So Unit 4 is a dissertation project, and there are 3 pathways for you to choose from in that. You can do an individual research project, which is the traditional 10 to 12,000 word dissertation, which will involve you doing some of your own empirical research. You can also do a short dissertation, which is 6 to 8,000 words, and alongside that, you two kind of research methods focused like mini units. There is also the option to do a group dissertation. So if you have a common interest with other students on the course, you can work together to do a group dissertation. So the current cohort that we have just this week, or last week in fact, started their dissertation unit. So I've been having meetings, my initial meetings with my supervisees this week to get them all started on doing their dissertation project. And yeah, again, we've got lots of really interesting topics that people are doing the dissertations on. We've had dissertations in the past on the beneficial ownership regime, the SARS regime, the management of PEPs, the implications of new technologies for compliance staff, and yeah, a whole range of self-regulation in the gambling sector. One of the current cohort are doing. So some really interesting projects that people are doing for their dissertations. So for units 1 to 3, the majority of the materials are online for you to work through at your own pace. And this is textual materials, videos, various tasks for you to complete, reading lists, discussion boards. And so we try and keep it as flexible as possible for you to fit it around your work and different time zones. And then you'll have 3 weekend masterclasses around halfway through each of the first 3 units. Next slide, I think maybe Phoebe, about the masterclasses. Yeah, so these masterclasses run from Friday lunchtime to Sunday lunchtime. We have 3 of them. It says there that they're held in Manchester, each of them. The way that we've done it actually in the last 3 years is to hold 2 of them in Manchester and have one of them fully online to kind of provide a bit more flexibility. But actually people really like coming to Manchester and getting together with the cohorts and going out for dinner and things like that, and actually getting to meet people and working together in person. That's stuff that you don't get so much from an online environment. So these involve sessions from me and Nick and other colleagues at Manchester, but also probably more interestingly, kind of external speakers, either people like Jonathan from the ICA, or we've had an expert in cybersecurity come in. We've had behavioural scientists who advise on decision making in financial services. Last year we had an ex-lawyer who had been convicted for fraud come in and talk about the kind of the other side, the other perspective. So that was really interesting. So the weekend masterclasses are really great for everyone, as I say, for everyone to get together and get to know each other and kind of start to build those relationships. I think that are almost as important a part of the doing the diplomas and the masters as anything else, kind of building that peer group and those networks. So yeah, just then quickly, the final slide for me, Phoebe, before I stop talking, that's just to show how the timetable works. So we run from the first week of September. Units 1, 2 and 3 are 10 weeks. So in weeks 1 to 4 and 6 to 9, you have these online materials to work through in your own time. And weeks 5 and 10, there's no kind of new materials. That's for working on your assessments and catching up and things like that. And then we have a 20-week period at the end for you to work on your dissertation with the support of a dedicated dissertation supervisor. So sorry, I haven't left that much time, but I guess we open it up. You may have a couple of slides just with dates, Phoebe.
Yes, thank you so much. Just quickly, so it does start on the 2nd of September, and that seems like it's a long time away, but it's summer now, and summer seems to just fly by, unlike winter. So the application closing date is in fact in August. So please do get your applications in sooner rather than later, because if you have any missing information or admissions have any questions, they need adequate time to have those conversations with you and make sure that they can get an offer to you. And for everyone that has an offer from us, and I think the majority have accepted, who have an offer, please do make sure you have accepted your offer. And we are going to go on to the Q&A now, but just in case I miss it off at the end, I will do a poll at the end where if you would like a one-to-one consultation with myself to talk through the application process, if you've got any questions following this webinar, please do fill it in and I'll be in contact with you and we can get that arranged. Alternatively, if you've just got a quick question, you don't feel the need to have a consultation, email studyonline@manchester.ac.uk. So I'm going to go to the questions now, and if I just make my way through them and then you can answer them if that's okay, both of you, because I'm not sure who I'd direct which one to. I'll just start with this first one. So is there a PhD program completing this master program, or can I complete other PhD programs based on completing the master's degree?
Yeah, thanks, Phoebe. So there is no kind of set PhD program related to the MSc, but the University of Manchester Department of Criminology has PhD programs in criminology. Obviously, the university have wider PhD programs in other areas as well. And so while it kind of it doesn't directly lead you on to, if you've completed this MSc, you then are eligible to apply for a PhD either at Manchester or at any other university, and we could talk to you about that as you work through the MSc as well.
Brilliant, thank you so much. I have noticed that there have been some other questions as well, so I'm not sure if everyone else can see the ones that have been answered because they might be relevant to other people as well, but they're very generic about the duration and things like that. But
yeah, and I've got them open here, Phoebe, if you wanted me just to, there's a couple of them that I think hopefully will have been answered by the information that's been given in the webinar. So in terms of the questions about how many weeks the program will be, there's a long written answer there to answer that, but also hopefully going through the structure there helped with that. And in relation to the question about lessons being the weekend or the weekday, hopefully that was covered there as well. But the majority of the MSc you work through in your own time online, and then we have these 3 weekend masterclasses which run from the Friday lunchtime to the Sunday lunchtime as well.
Brilliant. And dates for those workshops, they are released early on, so you will have those dates provided. So if I have recently completed the ICA, PG Dip, will I automatically be offered a place, or do I still need to go through the application process? You will need to apply via us, and actually is what I will do in the follow-up email as well that I send. I'll put a link of how to apply, just so that you can go straight to the process, but you will have to do it through the University of Manchester.
Question there for you, Jonathan, about the entry-level qualifications for the postgraduate diplomas.
Oh, right. I can't see that. Sorry, my bad. It can be a little bit flexible, but the basic entry criteria is education to undergraduate degree level and 10 years relevant professional experience, 3 of which should be at a senior level. Now, obviously, senior level is open to interpretation as well, but basically, because it is a very practical qualification, and it's assessed on the competencies that you can demonstrate that you can apply, then it's not a purely academic qualification. And for example, we don't accept people on, even who have gone on and done a master's degree, if they have no professional experience. So if you meet the 10 years experience and 3 years at a senior level and have a first degree, then that is the entry criteria and there shouldn't be any issues. If you don't quite meet it in one area, or 1 or 2 areas, but you're close, then I will basically look at it and potentially even have a conversation with you, because I'm the person that approves the applications for the diploma with the ICA.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Sorry, I've just noticed in the chat as well, somebody's completing their diploma in August, and can they apply? I also had that question this morning from somebody else who is completing in August on one of my courses. And my advice, and I'd just like you to confirm if possible, is that you should apply, and if they completed their diploma and we have the results and they're okay, then we can sort of forward that on to you. Is that the correct approach, or is there a different way you want to do it? Because I have a cohort finishing in August this year.
No, definitely apply,
Yeah.
apply, because even if we don't have that certificate, we can offer a conditional offer. And that's, you know, not to say that you won't get on the course, it's just to say, yep, we're just going to wait for this certification and then you'll get your unconditional offer.
Right, thanks. So yeah, if you're finishing one of Jonathan's courses in August, yeah, you can apply, and then yeah, you should have your certificate through in time to be starting.
Absolutely.
I think that's everything from the. There is a couple of questions that have come up, and these questions do come up about having about the fact that the ICA diploma is mandatory for entry onto the MSc, and whether anything else is allowed. Yeah, at the moment, as we hopefully we tried to explain in the webinar, the relationship between the ICA diplomas and the MSc is really fundamental to the nature of this programme, and really of benefit to the nature of this programme. And we have to have those for all kinds of university regulations stuff. You have to have those 60 credits from the PG diploma, and to add to the 120 credits that we get from the MSc, to make up the 180 credits that you need for a master's degree at these levels. The university has had a long-standing relationship with the ICA, and all the ICA qualifications are kind of quality assured and things like that through the university, kind of outside of this programme, but just as a general, so we have that kind of link. So that's why there's the kind of the requirement for the ICA diplomas first.
Absolutely. So the poll has just gone up. So if you would like a consultation, I just want to just clarify that I can only answer questions for the University of Manchester. So if it is regarding the ICA qualifications, please, you can contact me, absolutely, and I can signpost you to the right person, and I can pass you along if you've got any direct queries for Jonathan, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, as with any organization, yeah, emails can get lost in transit. So my apologies if the ICA, I can see at least one hasn't had a response from the ICA. If you forward that to me, I'll chase it up from my end.
Perfect. But I'd just like to start, well, can't talk now. Take the time to thank both Katie and Jonathan. Thank you so much. It was really interesting. It's great to have you both here, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Phoebe. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you to everyone who's come along.
Thank you, and I appreciate the time. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, bye.
Brilliant. I think I'll end it here because there are quite a few people and I wouldn't want them to hold on to my video. So thanks, Katie.
Yeah, thanks, Phoebe. Cheers, Jonathan. I'll be in touch. I'll speak to you soon, and see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.